Welcome back to DMMR. This is episode 2. We are back sooner than expected. Of course, this is Mike from Mike Text It Out, and I'm here with Dijon, writer, actor, filmmaker, a bunch of other stuff that I don't have time to remember. So we're going to hop into it today. Dijon, I feel rude because, I just introed. So how has your time been since the episode 1? What's been going on in Dijon's life since DMMR episode 1?
Ever since the last time we did DMMR, my life has been horrible. No, just kidding. So for about a week, I have been battling a horrible case of strep throat. It's the first time I ever had it, and it felt like it's the devil's disease. Honestly, it was just really weird because I was out. I couldn't do no work. I did no narrating work, no voice acting work, no writing, and that's really unusual for me to not do any writing. And I didn't even search for any acting auditions. I was like, I'm like halfway dead right now. So it's been a journey going through that, but I'm kind of grateful that it happened because I needed a break from all of the stuff I'm doing. I needed a break from working out. I needed a break from the 5 million different things I'm working on. And, they say if you don't take a break, then God will just force one on you. Not saying that God purposely gave me strep throat, but I felt like when it happened, he was like, you need a break anyway. You'll be fine.
It was funny because I was thinking about that. I was like, it's so ironic that something would happen to your throat, that like the one thing, the most important thing that you're using at the time to do your work. I was like,
yeah, irony is horrible because I was getting ready to record these audiobooks. I was so excited, and then the day that I got ready to record them, I noticed a tingle was in my throat, and I was like, something's not right. Let me go load myself up with vitamin C. And then next thing I know, the tingle turned into like, it felt like somebody shoved a whole bunch of needles down my throat, and they were like, try to talk. And so like every time I even like opened my mouth a little bit, I was just like, and it was pretty bad because trying to pray during that time was horrible. I was like, Jesus, I love you. I was like, oh my God, this is so bad. Like it was not good. But again, it gave me the break I needed. I am 85% better now. My throat's still hurting a little bit, but it's good enough for me to, talk now and do this. So I'm very happy that I am in better health now. So what about you, my friend?
well, I spend a lot of my time, 40 hours a week working, and then of course, outside of that, I do my other videos on YouTube. But this week was more so I was focused on promoting the podcast. I did the Facebook ad. Maybe some people saw it. For this podcast, so it's really just been a lot of like trying to get out there and get people to tune in and listen to what we're talking about. So, but the big thing, if you saw, my latest video was that new iPad $300 case that I got. I didn't spend $300 for it, but I gotta grab it. I love this thing.
Oh my God, it's so beautiful.
For the audio listeners, it's literally your iPad floats up here. It has a keyboard and a trackpad. It literally turns the iPad Pro into a full, pretty much a laptop, and that's the way I've been using it. Like I've just had it with me while I've been working at home. Not that I'm ghetto and I would do that, but I do that while I'm on the phone because I work in a call center technically. So
they understand.
I've just been using it like that. I've just had it like as my laptop, and it's such an amazing experience. It's so different from your traditional laptop because since all the apps are designed to be you know, so light, and the iPad Pro has so much power. It's like you could just do so many different things. Like obviously you can only run two apps at the same time up there, but just like switching between apps, everything just runs fast. It really is like I see this as the future in computing. And that's why it gets me excited. But at the same time, it's like it's really like a luxury. Like it's kind of like almost a niche item. Like I just can't see this being useful to every iPad Pro owner unless you really enjoy using the mouse, which I said, using the mouse with the iPad, which I said in my unboxing video of it. It was like an unboxing and first impressions. I was like, unless you enjoy using the mouse and keyboard with the iPad, there's really no reason to buy it. But personally, that's the way I've been using it. And honestly, it's like a bedside tablet to me 90% of the time. And like when I'm going to bed, I don't feel like having to hold the tablet in my hand and use the touchscreen. So it's been great. And of course, I do all my thumbnails with it. I did the thumbnail for this channel on my iPad. Like I do everything, a lot of important art related stuff on my iPad. So it's been spectacular. Other than that, I really haven't done that much. The working takes up most of my week, and then videos and promotions, and I recorded the new intro for the podcast, which hopefully you guys are hearing if everything goes right. It got a little bit, got the dun 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 dun, dun and then you go. It's a thing. It's a thing.
It's cool, honestly. I absolutely love it. So yeah, even though there has not been much going on with us, we definitely have to address that there has been a lot going on in the world. And being that I have been completely out of commission, I've had nothing to do except go online and scroll and see just the terrible, terrible tragedy that has been going on. And yeah, it's been really sad, honestly. Watching a cop put his knee. Oh Jesus, I'm sorry. It's a lot. And I actually ended up watching a movie called I Am Not Your Negro, and it was adapted from my favorite writer of all time, James Baldwin. And it was weird because as I was watching the old scenes on there, I was seeing the exact same thing happen where cops were putting their knee on African American males' necks and murdering them. Yeah. And I'm just like, wow, 70 years later, and it's just like, what has changed, Um, it's really weird because, like, I don't normally, even though I'm definitely an advocate for my people, there are some things that I choose to stay silent on. But this was something that obviously I couldn't stay silent on. I don't think any person that has respect, whether they're African American or not, could just stay silent on this. This obviously is a call to action for our entire country, for our race. It shows for sure that a change definitely needs to happen. I think we have to be very cognizant of what kind of change we're asking for, because when you're messing with our government, it's almost like making a deal with the devil. And I was talking to my cousin about this, and I was like, I don't want them to make it to where they're just like, all right, you guys want everything to be equal, or fine. We're going to take away the upper class. Everybody's going to be getting paid the same amount. Da, 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 da. That's just like the paranoid side of me. And I'm like, while we're fighting for what we want, let's make sure we're being specific about what we want and voting the right people who align with our ideas so that we don't end up in an even worse situation. Because when you're working against people who are very negative and always want to win, they're always going to find a way, a loophole, basically. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much. It was kind of a difficult thing for me because I'm just not one of those people that's ever been outspoken about racial issues, because I've always been one of those people that was just kind of lead by example. I felt like if I just always did the right stuff, then at least I could show people, like, this is what Black culture is like. This is what, and more importantly to me was was always like my fight, more recently over the last 10 years is just being gay in America, being gay and black. So being gay was always taking precedence for me, but it's gotten to the point with the race part of it, you just can't ignore it anymore. Like it is a big issue, and I for the longest time personally denied it, and now I regret it because I've definitely been one of those people that's like, well, this situation and this situation that could have been prevented. And now it's like, well, there's nothing that these, this all the stuff that's happened recently, the knee, the woman getting shot because the police busted in their house at the wee hours in the morning and had the wrong house. All these situations were like, the people in those situations, there was really nothing that they could do to get out of those situations. They were just
Absolutely.
and it's impossible not to feel that way, that they were treated that way because they were black or because they were lower class or both, and which I feel like is both. I just feel like the police, growing up in lower class neighborhood, is that the police definitely treat you different. They do. Like they just assume because you're living in this area that they can kind of treat you like shit. Excuse my language, but that's the truth. So I didn't want to say anything on my channel on Mike Text It Out because it's I really try to focus on being positive up there. Not that this is like it's not anything negative. I don't mean to say it that way, but I just don't really talk that much about subjects that might be interpreted as being political or pushing an agenda. I did make a small mention to it on my video on Saturday because it did relate to one of the stories, because Sony canceled their they had an event coming up to show off some PlayStation 5 gameplay, but they canceled it in light of what was going on in America with the protests and everything, to kind of to show support, which was really cool of them to do. So I had to address it in that video a little bit, and I just kind of did like a quick blurb about it. But it's really, we're just really in a bad situation culturally right now in America, and I think that I don't want to go too far into politics. That's what's tough about it. Yeah. But I just feel like because of who the president is, it's really gotten to the point where people think that they can say and do pretty much anything. And especially like the police, they're like, well, if I do this, the president's going to have my back. That's the way that it feels right now, at least from my perspective. So, people are going to say what they want. They're going to try to villainize the protesters, but the protesters are not the villains. They're the people that, I'm not out there protesting, but they're the people that are speaking up for people like me who are sitting here, working my 40 hours a week and doing all the stuff that I'm doing. They're the ones who are enabling me to continue to do what I do. So I definitely support the people who are out there protesting and making a stand.
Absolutely. And, for me, I definitely wanted to be out there, but I contracted the sickness. And I'm not going to go too far into my medical stuff, but basically, there's a chance that I might have to have surgery to have my tonsils removed because to prevent reinfection. And it got so bad that the hospital was literally like, oh, we don't accept your insurance. So after making me wait days and days and giving me a pain medication that was not strong enough, and somehow the past couple hospital visits I've had there have been paid for, and all of a sudden they were like, oh, we don't accept your insurance, so you have to go to another hospital. You have to go to Johns Hopkins. And I was like, why would y'all tell me this? Almost a week after treating me and everything, and I've been calling you every day to get a follow-up to find out the condition of my voice right now, because I need my voice for my job. And but it's okay. I'm positive. Keeping myself in good spirits and positive prayers. Everything will be fine. I think that was a bit of our heavy, kind of depressing topic, but
I forgot when we were talking about what we did this week. There was one thing that I did that I didn't talk about. I read a book this week. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It was a very good book. It's called The Emancipation of Deborah Jones by Dijon and McIntyre. And
James.
I really it's really hard to talk about without giving too much away, because I really want people to go out and read it. but a lot of it really relates to what's going on right now, and I know that the book was written obviously way before what's happening right now, but a lot of it still holds true, and just like I don't know what you did with that character, and just making me think about like the decisions that she made throughout her journey, and it's like I was thinking about it earlier. I was like, well, what if she did make that decision? Like, how different would her life have been? Uh, it's crazy, and then the whole time is like that I was really rooting for this character, even until the very end. I was like, man, I'm really like, I want this character to, to get to the promised land, pretty much, to get to the emancipation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's it's hard to talk. I don't want to give any I'm not giving any spoilers, because go read the book. It is amazing. What is like $3 on Amazon? Like,
Yeah.
just it's $3. Just go buy it. Just please. It's so good. Like, I was honestly blown away, and it's one of those things that's gonna stick with me for a long time. Like, I literally like started reading it, and I read the first half of it. Like, I was about to go to sleep, and I was like, I'm gonna start this book to kind of, because for some reason in my mind, even though it's not 100% not true at any time, I'm always like, I'm gonna start reading to settle my mind down so I can go to sleep. But then every time I start reading and I'm into something, then I just don't go to sleep, because I'm just like, it grabbed me. I literally finished it in one day because it was so, like, I was just so into it. But yeah, it's an amazing book. I'm gonna start your second book soon, so and I'm really looking forward to it, because that first book was outstanding.
Thank you. Honestly, I really appreciate it. Yeah, I'm not gonna give too much away, but I will say that a lot of that was inspired by people that I knew in my life personally, and just things that I saw them go through, and I felt like, I saw a lot of judgment happening for them, and I'm the person that I don't like to judge. I make a lot of jokes, sometimes completely unnecessary jokes, but in my heart of hearts, I definitely don't like judging people, and I believe in the word redemption so strongly. And I also live by the philosophy that even when it seems like a person is a villain up front, there's always a story behind why they are the way they are and how did they get there. And that was the big thing that inspired me with the story, is that I definitely wanted to show people like, hey, I know it seems like there's a lot of like bad people out there in your life, and people who have probably done very horrible things to you, but try to the best of your ability to understand that they have a story just like you have a story, and you may have been through bad things too and came out a completely different way, which is a juxtaposition between the first book and the second book, because you see two characters who both go through very unquestionably bad things in their life, but you see their outcomes turn out very different. And so, just try to have understanding heart when it comes to people. That's definitely one thing I try to promote for sure. And yeah, read it. The Emancipation of Deborah James. It is available on Amazon in both ebook, paperback format. I promise you, you will not regret it. Everybody I have met has literally loved this book. And I'm not even saying it just because I wrote it. Because to be honest with you, when I went into writing that book, I had almost no confidence in myself. I had a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety. I literally only wrote the book because I had a dream and I heard like the voice of God tell me like, hey, write this book. And I never even thought about writing a book. I never thought about being an author. And I was like, all right, well, I guess I'll see what happens. And then, yeah, I cried while writing it. And after I was done writing it, I was just like, wow, that story did something to me on the inside. It changed me as I was writing it. And I'm hoping that it can do the same thing for somebody else. Just inspire them and, do something positive, because we need stories like that. And especially right now with the story dealing with racial tension and, what you've seen, the way these characters handle it. I think it's a very relevant story for the time that we're in.
Did I literally say the name of the book? I said Deborah Jones. Dang it.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
It's
okay.
The Emancipation of Deborah James. So yes, definitely I love the book. I'm gonna reread it. And like I said, I'm gonna read your second book because it's an outstanding story. Like it's so grounded and realistic, and you're going through different time periods throughout the book. But I would just feel like it's so grounded of what, like, it made me feel like, not, it wasn't like one of those things where I was like, okay, this is, and imagining like, oh, like this is the TV version of what you would have saw from that time period. It was like a way more realistic approach of what life was like during this time. And that's one of the things that I really enjoy. And it takes a lot for me to enjoy it because anybody that knows me, I will plainly say that I hate stuff that's set in like an old timey setting. Like I like current and futuristic stuff, and that's it. So the fact that I enjoyed it so much, it really speaks to how good of a writer you are and how good of a storyteller you are.
Thank you.
That's all I wanted to say.
That feels great. I really appreciate all the positive feedback that I've been getting on it. And again, it's a very personal story, and I wanted to get out, not even for like money reasons. I mean, I am kind of a full-time entrepreneur, so I need it. But I wanted to get out, honestly, because I'm hoping that it can help other people who have been through terrible things in their life, whether you are the persecutor or the victim. I feel like both sides should read it, and maybe they can come to a better understanding about how each side feels and about their own selves. And that's basically all I got to say on that. So next thing, what have we learned since doing our first episode? Woo!
The number one thing that I learned from doing YouTube, it's tough to get out there and get people to get noticed, and there is definitely a little bit of frustration, I think, from both of us, because I love that first episode, like going back and listening to it, like when I was doing the editing, and I just wanted people to hear it. But and you made the joke at the end where like if we got 50 views or listens that we would do the episode in 2 weeks. We didn't, but we just enjoyed it so much that we decided to do it anyway.
I think we at least got halfway there, right?
Yeah, but I'm still grateful. Like that's the one thing that I take away from it. I'm always grateful that people listen, and even my own personal channel, like people watch. A lot of my videos usually get like 20 or 30 views, but if someone took the time to watch it and even throw a like on it or a comment or something like that, I really appreciate it. It's not the amount of views or listens as that people enjoyed this. And I didn't want to sell the podcast for something that wasn't. It's like the art plus technology. This is really like us. And the funny thing is like I do try to sell it as like, you're the artistic type and then I'm in the technology, but that's really not 100% true, because a lot of the stuff that I do is artistic and a lot of stuff that you do involves technology. That's the whole point. It's just like
we both
we both just lean more in one way than the other person, but we both are kind of involved in the space, and that's the whole point of the podcast. So what I learned since episode 1 was I still enjoy doing podcasts. I really enjoy it a lot, and it is tough. It's even tougher than doing video, because it's like, well, are people gonna... The thing is, like, it's crazy, like the tracking for podcasts. I feel like it's so much more. It's a lot more difficult, because like YouTube, you get your instant gratification right. Like you get a refresh and you see how many views you got right then. But like for instance, like Apple, I still don't have any data on our podcast. And I know for a fact that at least one person listened to it, but it still says no data, like when I go to it, and it's been up there for weeks. So
Nice.
It's crazy. And I've done another podcast before, but I wasn't as invested in it as I've been in this one, even though this is only the second episode. But it's been a thing. So so how's your experience being a co-creator on a podcast been?
It's been interesting. I'm like a lot more of the like investigation type, so I'm always looking for new things to talk about, and it's definitely been interesting. I'm just like, oh, okay, this pops up and this pops up. But I would say the hard part for me is definitely not finding stuff to talk about because my mind, I'm not sure my brain ever shuts off. I don't think it does. Even when I go to sleep, I come up with new ideas of things to write about. But the hardest part for me was marketing because I also do the marketing part through like the social media page on Twitter, DMMR podcast, and like, man, starting a Twitter account from 0 followers.
It's difficult. It really is.
Yeah, especially when you're doing something as like niche as a podcast, because
So I put it off on you because I was like, look, I'm already dealing with this on my channel. I'm not doing it a second time.
on the writing basis, you could just have for like I have the writing community and they do the F for F, follow for follow, and they do things like writers lift and different things on Twitter, and that helps me out a lot. But shout out to my writers community, I love you guys. But yeah, like with the podcast, it's not like a podcast community on Twitter. If there is, I haven't discovered it yet. But man, it's hard. It's hard. We got one new follower in the past 2 weeks. And I was so happy to get the one new follower. I was like, oh my God, you're so wonderful. And I know, like, with social media, you're supposed to branch out and do Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I feel like with it being a podcast, to be honest with you, maybe I'll try Instagram. We might get a little bit further with Instagram. But my experience with using Facebook up until very recently has been that people on Facebook don't usually have the time nor attention span to do something, click on something, or follow something like a podcast, right? However, my beliefs were challenged about Facebook. I will say that because I put up the link to my new website for my company, Freedom Arts. It's freedomarts.com. That's arts with a Z. And I think that's the most interactive post. It's definitely the most interactive post I've had this year. It's possibly the most interactive post I've had in the past 2 years. I was blown away by the feedback that I got on it, by the amount of people that clicked, liked, shared, clicked, liked. I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. People are going to my website. People are congratulating me. People are being so positive, so supportive. I really appreciated it. So, I guess it's just one of those things where like you can't judge it by like what the platform is. You just have to see how your particular project is able to flourish on the platforms that you put it on. And there's always some that is going to flourish on more than others. Yeah. I guess we're trying to find what our flourishing point is for our podcast right now. Really, is obviously isn't going to be Twitter.
Yeah, I think Facebook is like yeah, because I ran the ad on my Facebook channel because I already have a page for Mike Texted Out, but it's hard to get people to do anything. It feels like to get them to do anything off platform. Like if you put something out, like if I upload a Facebook video, like a video directly on Facebook, it gets a lot more views than if I put a link to my YouTube video or I put a link to the podcast. So it just seems like a lot of the people that are on Facebook just like to view stuff that's on Facebook. Maybe they're just because there's a lot of like bad ads that lead to getting like viruses and spyware and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I just think that people are more weary about clicking on links on Facebook, especially the community on Facebook. A lot of them aren't as tech savvy, so and they probably had bad experiences where they clicked on. I mean, I know they've had bad experiences. My mother-in-law and my father-in-law, technically his mother, we've had to go over and pretty much factory reset their stuff because they just ran into so many issues with stuff they were clicking on Facebook. So, but yeah, it's a different community. So I think finding our niche in social media is going to be challenging. But I'm really looking forward. I think we could really do something with Instagram. I think we have a real opportunity there. I just don't think Facebook is like the right platform. And I even said that with Mike Texted Out. Like my stuff, I post on Facebook, and that's mainly the main reason I maintain a Facebook page there is because my friends, and when they do decide to check out my videos, it's easier for them to find them on Facebook. But that's pretty much it. Like as far as like me growing on Facebook, I will say I have gotten a few messages. It's from people that had questions like that watched one of my videos. So I guess it's easier for them to find me on Facebook and reach out than to use, because like YouTube, you can just there's an email button. You can just email somebody to the email they have on file. But I guess they find it easier just to use Facebook, and then they'll just send me a direct message. So I have got like 3 or 4 messages on Facebook with people asking me questions. So I guess it is useful to have. Like it's still useful to have, but
Yeah.
as far as like growing, like most of my growth from my YouTube channel has just been on YouTube. Like it's been on platform. So podcast is difficult because it's like, especially like because Apple Podcasts is one of the biggest. But how do you advertise yourself on Apple Podcasts? You have to be popular.
Yeah.
So you got to get popular somewhere else, and then you might get featured on Apple Podcasts, and then that's when you blow up. So it's been really challenging to try to figure out, like, especially just with episode 1, just figuring out how to get out there.
Right. And speaking of figuring out things, I have been figuring out different ways to do writing on my wonderful, wonderful MacBook. And one of those ways is just by downloading different programs. So normally I actually been using Google Docs, to be honest with you, but that's for like a very first draft type thing. It's very good for that. But I'm not putting Google Docs down, believe me, because Google Docs is where I was able to write my first and my second book and the majority of my screenplays before I got Final Draft. But yeah, like it's been really cool. I have been looking for the perfect thing to write my short story I'm working on right now. I've just been using Google Docs and I'm over halfway done, so I'll probably just finish it on there. And it's also good whenever you want to invite an editor in and you could just add them to the document. You know, it's great for that. But yeah, I've been looking at different stuff. I find that what is it called? Wetpad. I found that works really well for writing stories. I'm not sure how to market on there. That's my only issue. Because my friend, he writes on there, and I'm going to be doing his book trailer soon. And man, his story gets just, I mean, like 20,000, 40,000 views, and I'm just like, what are you doing? Are you hypnotizing people? Like what? but with all that being said, I feel like I love the keyboard on my MacBook. I've heard complaints about different people's keyboards for MacBooks, but the keyboard on my MacBook works well. It's not broken. It works really great. I find it's really fluid when I'm typing. I absolutely love it. I think if I were using any other computer, if I were using a non-Mac to write my stories, it wouldn't feel the same. To the connectivity with my phone, I think I mentioned something a little bit about this on the first episode, but the connectivity with my phone would not be there as strong. And I have to correct myself about something from the first episode. So I don't know what was going on, but after because the Mac Catalina recently had an update, and after I updated my Mac, turns out I can now easily go between my iPhone and my MacBook with Final Draft. I am so happy about that. I forgot to tell you about this in a private conversation, but like I was so happy about it because I went on my iPhone and I was like, oh my God, I can access all my scripts except for one. I don't know why it's not on there. It just literally disappeared into thin air, but it's still on my Mac. But other than that, I can access the rest of my scripts, so I can work on them on my phone and on my computer, which is exactly the reason that I got the phone in the first place. When I tell you I am so excited, because I'm like, thank God, now when I go out, I can feel comfortable leaving the house, because I'm the one person, not the only person, but I'm one of the people who like to leave the house, ride in the car with somebody, work on my stuff the whole time, and act like the person isn't there. And then when we get to our destination, keep working while I'm eating, and I'm around a crowd of people who are drinking, and I'm like, yeah, this is so much fun. Yeah, Don't you love the way I'm working on these scripts right now? So, yeah, I am like super excited about it. I'm so glad. So glad. I have to just thank you again for recommending a MacBook for me because
I
yeah,
didn't.
well, wait, you didn't?
I did recommend that one, but I recommended a Windows computer first.
That's
But you
right, you
said you were
did.
insistent on getting the MacBook, and I was like, okay, here you go. And I have given MacBooks a bunch of crap, and I had to apologize a little bit after doing the first podcast because when it really came down to the nitty gritty, because the way we did the first podcast, which was a train wreck, um, as far as the video part, like with you sending me the video and then because we couldn't actually see each other the first podcast. This is the first one we recorded where we can actually like see each other.
Yeah.
So I'm just recording the video on through OBS, and then he's gonna send me his audio that he's recording through GarageBand, so I can sync them together. But yeah, I had to sync both the videos together, sync the audio together. But I really want the audio to be crisp the last time, and there were some parts that were like too quiet, which I understand. That was because of the noise gate I applied to it. But really getting that audio the way that I wanted to, I needed Logic and I needed my MacBook. And when I really needed it, it was there. And I was like, as much crap as I give this computer because I don't really use it. Granted, it wasn't perfect. It overheated like 3 times and it shut down and it really got on my nerves. But I think it's about to go back to the Apple Store again. I'm just going to keep taking it back. It's out of warranty, but there's certain things that are covered outside of warranty. Because like when my battery almost exploded, it was out of warranty at the time, and they replaced it because it's one of those things that are covered under extended warranty.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna keep taking it back until they just give me a new, they give me a new laptop, pretty much. So it's about to go back to the Apple Store because there's no reason that should be overheating with what I was doing. But outside of the overheating part, when it comes to like getting professional work done, and there's a certain application that you need, and it just works so well on the Mac. That's what makes it so valuable. That's why people are like, oh, I don't understand why this person uses a Mac. That's why that application they need that works so well. It only works that well on the Mac. It only exists on the Mac. And when you need it, like when I needed Logic to do this audio stuff, like for the podcast, it was there. And I was like, I was literally thinking, I was like, this is an amazing experience because I was trying to use some of the free tools on Windows. Not saying that, the paid programs aren't great, but obviously I'm not going to spend $200 on another program that I already have on the Mac. But yeah, they're really reliable computers. And I do kind of give them a lot of crap because I love my desktop so much. I'm doing all my stuff on my desktop right now, like as far as recording the podcast, because it has so much horsepower. But the MacBook is still fantastic. Even if you have a bad keyboard model like I do, it's still a fantastic computer. That's all I wanted to say. I don't want to, I don't want anybody that has a Mac to feel bad.
Please don't, because these things are great. Honestly, this thing it's my best buddy.
I'm not like, I don't know. There's a lot of people in the YouTube tech world that are like, oh, well, why get a Mac when you can get this PC that has all this? And honestly, my PC was cheaper than the MacBook and it's a lot more powerful, but it's not like you can't do the same stuff that you're doing on a Mac or on a PC, and then you're not going to have the same software experience. And then as far as laptops, there's not anything on the Windows side. There's things that come close, but nothing quite matches the build quality of a MacBook. That's why, you have a 2015 model and it's built like a tank. Like that computer is going to last you another 10 or 15 years. Like honestly, like it's not going to fall apart on you. Like, there's probably going to be some component failures, and maybe eventually the hard drive will fail because that happens eventually with pretty much all computers. But the computer itself, like, it's built to last, and Apple computers are built to last, and that's just something that people just don't take into account. Like, I'm just not one of those people that's trying to be an elitist about you should only have Windows and you should only do this. It's just really dependent on what you want to do. But yeah, if I knew that you were looking to get Final Draft, I would have recommended a Mac in the first place. I just thought you wanted something that was going to be powerful enough to do some decent video editing and with a good hard drive. That's why I recommended the Windows computer. But if you wanted a Mac, then I would have had no issue recommending it. I just don't recommend it unless there's specifically something that you want on Mac OS.
Right. Right. Yeah. Just to wrap that up. Yeah. You know, I forgot you did recommend a Windows computer at first, and I really liked it. But being that I am an intuitive person, I always listen to my little voice on the inside, and something in me would not let me go and make that purchase. I was like, something says Mac. Something says Mac. Something says Mac. And then I talked to my best friend out in Florida, and she was basically like, yeah, she was like, man, you need to get you a MacBook. And like when she said it, I was already thinking it, and I was like, all right, somebody's connecting with me, so this is a good sign. Her advice was just perfect, and it came right on time.
Yeah,
but
and I also didn't think about GarageBand either, because like, as far as you doing voice recordings, I was like, it's really perfect because GarageBand is really powerful. That's why I like when you recommended the audio program after you got the Mac, I was like, just use GarageBand, because it's like once you really get down into it, there's a lot you can do for a program that doesn't cost anything, aside from buying a Mac computer, but you just get it for free. Mm-hmm. And there's just so many things. Like when I look at it now, I'm like, yeah, this really is the perfect computer for everything that you want to do creatively. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I just think I don't know. I get tired of people like being like, oh, why do you want a MacBook? Like sometimes it makes sense. It makes sense to have. For me, a lot of the times it doesn't make any sense unless I need to do audio. But other than that, I do everything on my Windows computer. So yeah, it just depends on the person. But I think for you, like it's pretty much the perfect computer. Like writing, doing your audio recordings. Mm-hmm. Eventually doing video editing, you'll be able to do all that easily like on the MacBook, and then you don't have to spend a bunch of money to get these programs. Like you can get good starter programs like GarageBand, you get iMovie, the Windows equivalents. They don't even have Windows Movie Maker anymore. I
don't think they do.
It was pretty awful though, but I used to use it back in the day.
Jesus, it was awful.
But yeah, there's not, with Windows, you get what you get. You got to go find your own programs. They're not going to be, for the most part, as good as what you get from Apple with their polish.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and speaking of things that are polished, let's talk about polishing shoes at a job that you don't like. That didn't make sense, but I'm going to pretend it did. But no, so
whew, that was as bad of a transition as I do in my Mike Texted Out news video.
but yeah, no. So we've been talking on and off about this, but I think that right now is definitely a critical time for me to talk about this because I've been thinking about it a whole lot, which is not going back to a job that I hate. So, I'm surviving on very little funds right now, but I got enough to pay my rent 1 month. But, my old job, the movie theater that I think I slightly trashed in the first episode, maybe it was the first episode or it was episode 0. But,
we can't talk about episode 0 ever again.
One of those. Well, we're just going to say it was the last episode that I think I completely trashed my old job. And do I have any regrets? No. Like, they sent out an email a couple of days ago, and they were like, hey, so we don't have an exact day, but we can open soon. What I need you guys to do is to click on this link and reapply. And what he didn't say in that email that was said in a previous email to other managers is employees will be starting back off at minimum wage, which is one of many reasons. I have not made minimum wage since I've been working there. I'm 26 years old. I can't tell you when the last time I've made minimum wage. I think. Oh, Jesus, yeah. I don't know. I think it was at some fried chicken place that I worked at in Virginia for like 2 weeks, and I quit because I was like, this is not for me. But what I wonder what the name of that place was. And anyway, So, I was just like, the disrespect of this man to try to tell people to reapply. And then he was just like, oh, by the way, since we're going to be limited on everything, not all the stations are opening back up. And for the few stations that are, we have both part-time and full-time positions available, but we're not going to be, we're going to be hiring in waves. So we're going to hire a couple of people and you're only going to work a couple of days a week, but we're doing everything we can, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, you're just not worth it. Like it's so much more worth it for me to just order my books, get out there, find venues, sell my books, and keep doing my voiceovers and just go from there. Because like, I'm so grateful. As bad as the pandemic has been, I'm grateful that um, God has found a way to make positive things come out of it for a lot of different people in a lot of different ways. And one of the big things that I've been talking about is that I feel like due to the pandemic, so many entrepreneurs have been born out of this because people now have the realization that they don't have to work for a corporation that doesn't appreciate them, that abuses them, that underpays them. Like, no, you don't have to do that. You can make money doing the silliest things in today's world. I mean, at my barber I just came from, she was just talking to me about her son who is a minor. He is a kid about how he has told her he's about to start making YouTube videos of him playing Fortnite, and she's helping him invest in it. And it's so wild that like people are able to buy like brand new cars and houses off of their YouTube videos and views. It's wild. And it's just like there's so many options out there, and I think that we were blind to the options, and Corona forced the scales to fall off our eyes and be like, you know what I'm doing, it's not conducive. I'm not even happy doing this. I might as well do what I love. Yeah, doing what you love always comes with a sacrifice. The sacrifice for me is that doing what I love requires faith. So it requires me to take big steps that I otherwise would not have been willing to take, or I would have been scared. I would be like, well, I want to just save up money and quit my job, but if I do that, how am I going to survive the next day? And how is this going to happen? How is this going to happen? 3 months into a pandemic and not having a sure way that I was going to get money, you know, now it's just like, all right, I now have the faith to say somehow God's going to provide a way for me to make some money. So far it's been through unemployment, but my cap is coming up on that, and maybe I want to say 1 week, but I'm hoping it's at least 2 or 3. I'm just hoping they just press a little extension button. It's not going to happen. But anyway, it's just like, I feel like if you have the drive, and I'm not going to lie to you, open up your own business. It takes a lot of work. I am always working, but at the same time, I can do things like what I just did. I got sick and I had to take a whole week off of everything. I can do things and do that and still not miss out on money, because even during that week that I was off, it gave me time to just scroll on my phone, talk to people about my book, and I've got more than a couple of book sales during this week. And so, honestly, I would much rather live life this way. I want this to be my new normal, because the normal that I had before, I wasn't happy with that normal. And honestly, it just wasn't working for me. And I feel so much happier doing it this way, being able to wake up and write. And I got time to pray and read my Bible and exercise. And it's like I'm living the full life that I've always wanted to live. And I can come home, write, go to sleep, write some more. I wish I was that productive every day. And I'm going to just be honest with you, I'm not. I have days where I will literally write for like 10 hours and then I just won't write anything for like 2 or 3 days. But anyway, my throat is starting to attack me, so I'm going to hand the mic over to Mr. Mike,
whose light just died in the middle of you talking.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I feel bad.
There you go. My batteries are. I've had these batteries for like 2 years, so they're like on their last leg. But yeah, for me, it's a little bit of a different situation because I actually make pretty good money. Mm-hmm. And because I work in a call center, I've been able to stay employed while this whole pandemic's going on. We just shifted to work from home, which I was completely against I was like, I don't want to work from home. I'm not set up for it. And it's not about being set up for it because I was able to, transition to working from home. That's fine. But I have my two dogs that are loud. I live by a busy street. I literally live off of a pretty busy road, like right off the back of my room here. So
Mm-hmm.
there's cars are going by all the time, and I was just like, I just don't want to deal with this. And then on top of that, the main 110% thing, the reason that I was against working from home is because I need that separation between my workspace and my home space. My home space is where I create. That's where I have ideas. It's where I do the stuff that I want to, and then work is the thing that I'm doing right now, currently, to get money.
Mm-hmm.
Until Mike Text It Out becomes a thing where it's self sufficient. This is what I have to do,
Mm-hmm.
and I almost walked out earlier this week, and it wasn't because a lot of people think like, oh, you're walking out your job. What's wrong? And I don't think that a lot of people aren't really creative in the same way. Like we are. Like we're both creative people, and I think that even though I lean more on the tech side, like I enjoy every aspect of recording a video. I enjoy talking about tech. I enjoy taking it, doing messing with the color grading, doing editing. Like I really do. It fulfills everything that I want, like my artistic side and then the tech side. But working at a tech job is just like there's nothing creative about it, especially working in a call center. You literally pretty much do the same thing all day and then talk to people who are generally ungrateful and
Yeah.
they don't. It's not even that people not knowing what they're doing doesn't bother me. So I don't want people to feel like, oh well, I'm complaining about people not knowing what they're doing. It's not that, but it's people that don't know what they're doing and they're not willing to learn anything, and that's just a lot of people that we deal with. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, and this is not my first call center job. This is like my fourth call center job. But it's people are the same no matter what, whether they work for a company or they're just a regular consumer. There's always most people just like, I want you to do it for me, and that's what gets on my nerves the most. It's like this is not what technically this is not really what the job is supposed that what tech support's for. It's really not to do it for you. It's really like you can't figure it out or you run into an issue, and then we show you how to do it. And it's just you have to give so much of yourself to like emotionally. You have to give so much of yourself to serving these people, and you're not even serving them for a meaningful purpose. You're basically serving them because they're lazy, and that just drains so much of my energy. And then on top of that, there's nothing that I can really do that fulfills that creative side. So I'm just not getting fulfillment creatively, and then also it just drains me so much to deal with these people who are generally ungrateful and just are too lazy to figure things out for themselves. As horrible as that sounds.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's just really like years of dealing with this, and I'm just ready to be done. I really want this channel to be my focus. Like I want this podcast to be my focus, and I want Mike Takes It Out to be my focus. So that's why I almost walked out. So yeah, to me, it's for me it's a completely different situation. Like I'm getting paid really well. I'm getting paid well enough where I can afford all this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but it's really not making me happy. And money is not a motivating factor to me. Like the reason I'm getting paid this much is just because of experience, is just moving up and moving through different jobs and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it was never like a driving factor. It was always trying to find something that made me happy and working all these jobs. And it's like, oh, well, you can work your way off the phone. And I'm like, yeah, but then I just realized at some point, because I've been off the phone before. I haven't always been on the phone at call centers. I was a lead at my last two jobs. So, and then I was around the IT people and all this other stuff. And I see what their job is. And I'm like, none of this stuff will make me happy. Like, none of this would make me happy for the rest of my life. I have to be fulfilled in the artistic way. Like I have to be, you know, tech is fun, but I also have to be filled in the artistic way and or
Mm.
fulfilled, or it's just not gonna work for me. And that's kind of what I'm struggling with right now. It's like I really want to leave my job, but I have bills, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
So right now I'm just working on finding something else to try to get by until I can start making it off of YouTube or doing something with this podcast. And I'm not telling people to go listen to this podcast because to give us money. There's really not the point, because you can't. I wouldn't have done YouTube for almost 2 years now if it was for money, because I literally don't make any, and I spend a lot more money on the channel than than I'll probably make back in the next 5 years. So
Mm-hmm.
that's not the main reason I'm doing this. I do this because I enjoy it, but I would like to make money off of it just because it would be awesome. Like, it'd be great to do this all the time and to be able to do more. That's the driving force
Yeah.
behind all of this for me.
Yeah, I think what you said. It is. You're obviously your situation is different. I've mentioned that before because you have a house, and you're also married, so that also makes a big difference. I feel like with me being single, I don't have as many responsibilities, and I'm also a bit of a risk taker. So like, and honestly, I'm a man that's driven by passion, which sometimes lands me in not so good situations, but then ultimately it lands me where I need to be. So like, I can do things that I don't like for a very long time, but at some point something will start clicking, and at first my attitude will start changing, and then I'll start falling into like bad behaviors that I shouldn't be falling into, like getting drunk on the job. Not as bad as it sounds. I was a bartender. All bartenders drink. Trust me. But but yeah, like there were just so many signs that I should probably just not go back to something that's not good for me. Like I just can't do it. Moving forward is always scary, and it happens at a different time for everybody. And I know yours will come unexpectedly. I definitely feel like yours is going to come unexpectedly, and I can't even tell you where it's going to come from. I just know it's going to come unexpectedly. But um, I would definitely say if you have a job and you're making a lot of money, save up that money to do something that you like doing, or to be able to at least one day be able to, when you have the whatever you need, courage or faith or whatever you need, um, to just say, you know what, I quit. I got some money to fall back on for a while I do the things that I do, and kind of swim your way to figure out like where your feet are gonna land. Um, yeah, and if you're the kind of person that you're at a job that you don't like and you already don't make that much money, because honestly, I wasn't getting paid a lot hourly, but most of my money was made off of tips. Like in tips, on average, I would make 200, sometimes like 350 a week just on my tips. But I feel like if you're at a job that you don't really like that much and you're in that kind of situation and you feel like you're ready to take that risk, go for it. But if you don't feel like you're ready for it, don't put yourself into something you're not ready for, because you don't want to land in a bad position. Um, yeah, I even though I joke about how broke I am, I do have at least some money to fall back on where I know I'll be good for at least a couple of months. Hopefully, well, a couple of months. But yeah. So do your thing. Whatever you're passionate about, just stick to it. And I don't know. There's another thought that's like bothering me in my mind right now. So like for me, I started off just doing acting, and then acting was making me not that much money. Just to be real with you, because I have this weird thing where like anytime I go to an audition, people don't want to cast me as an extra. I've literally been cast as an extra one time, and that was in the movie Harriet, and I didn't even get a chance to go because I had things going on. But um, people oftentimes want to put me in lead roles, and so I think with that there comes another side of like, if you're not in the position to get a lead role, then you're gonna probably have some trouble finding jobs. So I had to find something else that was gonna make money for me. And honestly, I've been had this feeling. I've been saying this for years that writing is probably gonna be the most profitable thing that I do in my life. Like writing, I feel like I made money off writing quicker than I made money before I started making money off acting. Um, and not only does writing make me more money, but I feel like as much as I love performing and the art of performing, I find it to be absolutely incredible. I also love storytelling through something that I'm able to create and fully come up with myself, because I also like the aspect of being able to control something. And I always feel like my ideas are just best anyway. So it's just better for me to write and to create stuff. I promise you guys, I'm not egotistical. I was saying that slightly as a joke, but no, really, my ideas are great. But but yeah, like, so also be open to finding new journeys, and you never know what you'll fall into. I started off just as an actor, and it became a writer, it became a producer, a director, and voiceover artist, narrator, everything else. I don't even know what the fuck else I am at this point, but yeah.
Yeah, it's just for me, it's gonna be that patience because I started late anyway. For some reason, I turned 30 and I was like, I'm sick of this shit. Like just the working these 9 to 5s and just not enjoying it. And I just kept telling myself before, it was like, well, I just need to find the right job because that's what everybody tells you, right? In corporate, it's just like, well, you just got to find the right role. And the thing is, like,
what's best for you?
the thing is, like, I always just feel like it's a compromise. Or someone's like, oh, I used to be a traveling musician, and now I work and do training in this call center. I'm like, how did that happen?
How did you stoop so low?
It's it's whatever. If that's what you ended up doing, that's fine and you're happy with it. But
yeah,
and it's not like you have to be like. It's not like you have to. Not everybody 100% achieves a dream in the way that they see it, and I think that's what I realized because I just from a young age I always felt like I was going to do something that was entertainment related. That's the only thing that I knew, and now it's like everything is kind of coming together finally, and I'm seeing that vision, and it's realistic, and it's just a great thing.
Oh my god. I'm sorry. I'm just laughing because of how true it is what you said. For me, I went to a performing arts school as a kid, and I just knew for the longest time I was going to be a singer. Like, I literally wrote my first song when I was maybe 11, and that song was slap. I don't care what nobody say. I was talking about rainbows and I was talking about being happy with the rainbows, and I read it to my friend, and she was like, oh my god, listen to you talk about the rainbows, like you're gonna be famous one day. And I was like, yes I am. In the back of my head I'm like, probably not for this though. But yeah, you really don't know where you're gonna land, because I knew that I was gonna go to the entertainment industry, and so I've always said like my primary thing was just gonna be acting. But then again, as I was saying before, it's now like this whole world has been opened up for me, where like when people ask me like what I am or what my dream is, it's hard for me to give them a direct answer. I would say my biggest dream career wise is definitely to be a big time director, producer, writer. But director, I put director first because probably director more than the rest of them. But then yeah, at this point, I don't know. I don't even know what my dream is. It keeps expanding, and at this point, I'm just like, whatever life has for me, man. That's what my dream is. And what life has for you today. Want to know what life has for you? It has, how do you feel about location tracking on an Android?
First of all, this was the topic that you wanted me to put up there because I haven't had an Android phone since like, I said probably like, probably since like 2009 or 2010 was the last time I had one. So it was in one of my news videos where the state of Arizona is suing Google because they're basically saying that they tricked people into giving out their location like willingly, and they didn't have any controls that were available, easily accessible controls to disable it. So Dijon had some feelings about that as someone who was a long time Android user, and I don't mean that in the back, because like I really feel like there's different users for different different phones. There's different users. I really enjoy having an iPhone, and that's why I haven't gone back to Android. But there's some people that are advocate Android people, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we're just talking about the privacy. Do you trust Google? Is Google trustworthy?
Absolutely not. I, I felt so uncomfortable with the amount of information they asked for me, especially when I had an Android. Like, it was just like, I always felt like there was just like this sneaky little demon, and it's just like, tell me all your little secrets, all of them. And every time I just had to give away my information, it was like, you can deny it, but if you deny it, you're not gonna have access to certain stuff. So they're basically forcing your hand, right? Like you basically have to get them the information, and I hated it. I've talked to you before about how painful whew, it was for me to have Google Maps on my Android. I tell you, it was the worst thing in the world. I was embarrassed because I would go places, and when I had to like come from a vehicle, be it whether it was a bus, a car, or whatever, and walk to the rest of my destination, I felt like people laughed at me because I would find myself walking around in circles. Cause like it would be like, go this way. Oh nope, turn around. And I'm just like, what happened in the past 5 minutes when I was following the path that you told me to go on, that's meant now making you tell me to turn around? This makes literally zero sense. Like, ugh. You could probably feel my frustration when I was saying that, because I just felt like my phone made me look so stupid. And, you know, now I'm fine. I'm happy because I have an iPhone, and I don't really go places anyway. And if I do, I get a Lyft to take me directly there. But yeah, man, I don't trust Google. I think that using the Google map on there was absolutely atrocious. But I'm not bagging on Androids either. You know, going back, even though I talked a lot of trash about my old Android, the truth is this: I bought an Android for a reason, and it wasn't just financial reasons, but because I had a cheaper Android model, and I've seen the upper echelon Android models, and honestly, they are so nice. They are so cool. I still prefer an iPhone because I still don't even know how to use my old Android completely. There's just too much going on.
Yeah, but that in itself is an issue, though. Like, your experience with Google Maps, because I use Google Maps on my iPhone, and I've always had a way better experience than using Apple Maps. But it's just like, it's kind of the Wild West. But as you know, if you buy $100 phone, $200 phone, $300 phone,
Mm-hmm.
you know, will be considered a cheaper phone. Does that mean it should be an experience that's where it's pretty much unusable? And I think that that's a quality control issue that
Absolutely.
exists. And then on top of that, you got Google that's taking your data, and then you got the basically the people that's manufacturing the phone and doing their own custom skin on Android. Then you got to trust them too with your data because they're collecting stuff, because you know obviously
Right.
they have control to put their own Android skin up there.
Right.
So I just think that there's a lot of holes, and even worse than Windows. And Windows was bad for a long time. Windows finally, Windows has come a long way as far as like manufacturers installing bloatware, and them allowing all these. I mean, it still happens, like them
Mm-hmm.
allowing software that's to collect data and slow down computers, but it's not nearly as bad as it was before. I think Google has hit that point with Android where it's like they really need to step in and control the experience, and they have the power to do that because the thing that a lot of people don't realize about Android is nobody is using open source Android. Nobody's using
Mm-hmm.
that version of Android. Everybody's using Google's version of Android. They're two separate
Absolutely.
things. Like if
Absolutely.
you use the open source version, it's older. It doesn't have the Google Play Store. It doesn't have Google Maps or any of the Google apps. Like you could technically use it for free, but it's not the same as Google's version of Android. Being that Google is they're paying Google to use their version of Android. Google has control over that experience. They could be like, hey, if you put this phone out, you need to support it for at least 3 years if you're going to use our version of Android. You can't put these apps on our phone that's going to collect users' data. Google has the power to do that. Or they can be like, you know what, then don't use our version of Android. You can use the open source one that's several versions behind and doesn't have all of our apps on there. There you
Mm-hmm.
go.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that Google could step in, and they've been trying to slowly do that, but I just feel like at this point they really need to step in and control that experience, um,
Right.
and can make these people responsible for supporting their phones and at least try to put things in place to protect users' data and privacy. Better things. I mean, I can't even say that because they don't, them with privacy has been bad. So I'm like, you guys, you need to keep it to you just stealing data versus letting people who use your operating system stealing data. Like, it's okay if you guys steal it, but don't let them steal it. Like, Google's not going to do that. They don't care.
Absolutely. And before we completely end this, I do want to say something really quick on the topic of phones. So, my big thing with Androids is that I was coming out of a very, very odd transition, and I think that I didn't know how to make the transition. So, for basically all of high school, I had a BlackBerry, and I was addicted to the BlackBerry so much to the point to where I didn't even get an Android phone, an actual Android phone, because back then I don't think BlackBerries used no, they didn't use Android operating system. They did when they tried to revive it, but that fell through, not surprisingly. But no shade, still love you, but like I had my BlackBerry up until 2013, and then that was when I switched over to Android. But honestly, I was a little confused because I didn't know about the whole Android versus iPhone thing, and then I just basically just kept buying new Androids because that was just like, all right, cool. I don't even know that much about an iPhone. I didn't really pay attention and to iPhones until maybe like the iPhone 8. Around that era, that's when I started noticing, oh, this is a thing. Oh, okay. And all I kept being told by people is, oh, they're just more expensive than Androids. You shouldn't even bother getting one. And now that I got one, I'm just like, I definitely got one at the right time, but also it would have been nice to have one before. But I definitely got one at the right time because of the fact that I'm a camera guy. And so when I'm able to see like the quality on the camera, it turns me on. Honestly, I love it so much. But we already talked about that before. I'm not going there, but I just want to throw that in really quick about the BlackBerry. But any final thoughts? I will let you go first.
Any final thoughts? I just want there to be serious competition for Apple in that space, and there is, because I mean technically Android phones are more successful, but Apple doesn't look at it that way, because if you think about it, people always say it's iPhone versus Android, but in reality, Apple is just another phone manufacturer. Apple is the same. It's like Samsung. They're not really competing against Google, just like the same way that MacBooks, they're not competing against Microsoft, because Microsoft makes the operating system. I mean, they do make computers. Maybe they're competing against that way, like the Surface Book versus the MacBook. Yeah. But it's Windows versus Mac OS. It's not a fair competition, because you can install Windows on anything. They're really just like an HP, or they're just a higher end tech brand. So
basically, yeah.
Yeah, but because I feel like even though Android phones, if you look at it as a whole, all these different manufacturers, of course they outsell Apple, but Apple still holds like the last I checked was like 30% of the smartphone market, which is a lot for one brand. But I want to see them get some serious competition. I want to see Apple step up and offer us a lot of these features that have been missing from Android that I thought they're not doing, because they don't have any competition that they're taking seriously in the Android market space, because they're all just kind of doing their own thing and experimenting. I think that the user experience across the whole Android line, from the low end to the high end, it needs to be more consistent. So I think once that happens, then there's going to be some serious competition. Our Apple's going to be forced to innovate more quickly like they used to.
Absolutely.
Is it time for the promotion?
It is free promotion. Woo, 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 woo. Ding, 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 ding. That probably wasn't the best idea.
Probably not.
Oh man, my voice is hurting. You can promote first. You go. I gotta recover.
Speaking of hurting, I know you've been hurting for some premium tech content. Freemium. tech content. You know what the best freemium tech content is? YouTube.com/Mike Texts It Out. I said YouTube.com/Mike Texts It Out. That's where you're going to find my weekly tech videos. On Saturday, I bring you the tech news. On Tuesday, I'm coming with unboxings, reviews, and my opinions on the latest and greatest and even some retro tech. So please come and join me at youtube.com/Mike Texts It Out. I don't know where that whole commercial came from, but it worked.
That was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Thank you. I really try.
I'm so proud of you. For me, so the main thing I'm promoting right now is my website because I want everybody to check it out. Honestly, I'm basically going to get to a point where I'm going to be doing everything through my website. All of my social media is accessible through there. All of my products both of my books are accessible through there, and as well as my services for writing, for acting, for audio recording. All of that stuff is available through there. And the website is Freedom Arts. That's arts with a Z at the end.com. So that's FREEDOMARTZ.com. Check that out on there. Also, follow us on Twitter at DMMR Podcast, and you can also follow me at Twitter. Me on Twitter at we'll have it in the video because I can never remember my stuff. Or follow me on Instagram at Dijon MC. Or you can I think that's it. Yeah, that's all.
All right, and with that being said, we're going to go ahead and bring this episode to a conclusion. So if you enjoyed it, make sure to go ahead and give us that 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or whatever platform you're listening to, because, you know, we're on Apple, we're on Spotify, we're on Audible. No, not Audible. Sorry. We're on, what's it called? Stitcher. I don't know why I looked at the Stitcher logo in my head and I thought Audible.
It's okay. I do jobs on Audible, so if you need a narrator, I'm here.
And then we also do, of course, we're on YouTube. If you want to watch the video version, you want to see, you know, my beautiful and lovely face where I'm well shaved and trimmed and, you know, well groomed. All right, but we are bringing episode 2 to a conclusion. Thank you so much for watching or listening or however you're enjoying this podcast. SoundCloud was it when I was forgetting. We're on SoundCloud as well.
Yeah.
Yes. So thank you for watching or listening. Please, if you enjoyed this, make sure to recommend it to a friend, someone that you know that's in the technology or art. You know, just we're out here. We're out here in these streets.
Hey, like, share, comment, subscribe, do all of that interesting stuff. Do not forget, all my jokes aside, Black Lives Matter. Do whatever you can. Donate to independent Black businesses. Please, Freedom Arts, businesses like that. We need you right now. Not just because of, you know, financial situations, but there's things going on in our country, and we want to make sure we're uplifting our brothers and sisters because this is a terrible time for us, but we can turn this tragedy into a miracle, honestly, by showing support for one another and showing Black people we are something. Because if you're Black, you are beautiful. All people are beautiful. I'm not going to go there, but I will say Black people are beautiful. We love you. We love your melanin. Keep being you. Keep succeeding. I love you so, so much. Mwah. Mike, final close.
All right, and with that being said, we are out. Thank you for listening to Wait, hold on. We're supposed to tell them what DMMR means this week at the close of the show.
We are.
We'll save that. Dijon McIntyre and Michael Robertson will save that for the next episode. So you have a great one. DMMR out.